Hi, it's Miss Lisa from the St. Paris Public Library. A couple weeks ago, before all this winterness started, we had a morning where the trees were frosted by fog. And that's usually, we call that Hor Frost, and it's spelled H-O-A-R, Frost. I looked for a book on Hor Frost to see if I could find one, but I could not find one. But I did find some information about Hor Frost, so I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. Some of the information I found was called Winter Magic, the Beauty of Freezing Fog, Rime Ice, and Hor Frost. So I'm going to start with some pictures. Some of the pictures I took, and some of them I found online, which were a little bit better and closer up. But I did get a few at my house that were pretty good of the Hor Frost. So I'm going to show some pictures in the background while I read through some of this information. Here's the definition for Rime Frost from the American Meteorologist Society's Glossary of Meteorology. Rime frost or rime ice it's white or milky and opaque, which means that it's kind of clear, granular deposit of ice formed by the rapid freezing of supercooled water drops as they impinge upon an exposed object. So what it is rime frost is a lot thicker, and if you can see in the picture, it's more of like layers of ice that freeze on an object when it's super cooled water. So each drop of water forms a layer, and then more water forms and freezes on an object. It is denser and harder than Hor Frost, but lighter, softer, and less transparent than glaze. Rime ice is composed essentially of discrete iced granules and has a density as low as 0.2 to 0.3 grams. So that's rime ice. Now, I didn't have rime ice on my trees. I had Hor Frost. So I'm going to give you a definition of Hor Frost and give you some information about that. Okay. This is Hor Frost. Hor Frost. So how is rime ice different from Hor Frost? Hor Frost tends to develop on clear, calm nights, and you might think of Hor Frost as the frozen equivalent of dew. Feathery needles of ice form in humid, sub-freezing air. And here's the definition of Hor Frost from the American Meteorologist Society's Glossary of Meteorology. Hor Frost is a deposit of interlocking ice crystals, Hor crystals, formed by direct deposition on objects, usually those of small diameter, freely exposed to the air, such as tree branches, plant stems, and leaf edges, wires, poles, etc. So here's a little bit more on Hor Frost from snowcrystals.com. There's a Caltech physics professor and North Dakota native, Dr. Ken Librecht, and his last name is spelled Librecht. Frost is to dew as snowflakes are to raindrops. When water vapor condenses into liquid water, you get raindrops and dew. When water vapor condenses directly into ice, then you get snowflakes and frost. Snowflakes are not frozen raindrops, and likewise, frost is not frozen dew. When frost forms as minute ice crystals covering the ground, we just call it all frost. But sometimes the frost grains grow larger and are called Hor Frost crystals. Good Hor Frost is not that uncommon if you watch for it. Hor Frost grows whenever it's cold outside and there is an ample source of water vapor nearby. In the absence of a sufficient moisture, Hor Frost does not form, but the water in the tissues of the plants may freeze, producing the condition known as black frost. So that was some of the information that I found on Hor Frost and rime ice, and I was interested in the rime ice, so that's why I gave you that information. So the Hor Frost is what really interested me the most, because it's what you see when you get up on that cold, freezing foggy morning and the trees are all crystallized and beautiful. They're not covered in ice, they're covered in hoar frost, and that makes the light reflect a lot differently off of them, so they're much more beautiful. So I'd like to share with you a little bit of a poem that I found. The author of this poem his name is John Clare. He was born July 13th, 1793, and he died May 20th, 1864. He was an English poet, the son of a farm laborer. He became known for his celebrations of the English countryside and sorrows at its disruption. His poetry underwent major reevaluation in the late 20th century. He's now often seen as a major 19th century poet. His biographer, Jonathan Bate, called Clare the greatest laboring class poet that English has ever produced. No one has ever written more powerfully of nature, of a rural childhood, and of the alienated and unstable self. So I'm going to share that poem with you today. The Hor Frost Lodges on Every Tree by John Clare. The hoar frost lodges on every tree, on the round haystack in the rushy lee. The boy ere he fathers behind the stacked stands, a stamping his feet and a knocking his hands. The shepherd goes tucking his hook in his arm and makes the dog bark of the sheep to the farm. The plow man, though noisy, goes silently now and rubs off the rime with his arms from the plow. Cop, cop to his horses, he sings and no more, for winter grins keenly and singing is o'er. Save just now, and then in the midst of the day, when hoar feathered frost is all melted away. Then lurks from the furrows, takes sunshine for spring. The mounts o'er his head just a minute to sing. And cleaning his plow at the end of the land, he'll hum lovely Jessie and sweet Peggy Band. Now, I couldn't find a lot of readings on Hor Frost, so if you're interested in Hor Frost, you can find some information online. It's just a beautiful thing that I just really wanted to share some information about. Have a good day.